It was granted me to carry away from my prison years on my bent back, which nearly broke beneath its load. This essential experience, how a human being becomes good and how they become evil. In the intoxication of youthful successes, I had felt myself to be infallible, and I was therefore cruel. In the abundance of power, I was a murderer and an oppressor. In my most evil moments, I was convinced that I was doing good, and I was well supplied with systematic arguments. And it was only when I lay there, on rotting prison straw, that I sensed within myself the first stirrings of good. Gradually, it was disclosed to me that the line separating good and evil passes not through states, nor between classes, nor between political parties either, but right through every human heart, and through all human hearts. This line shifts. Inside us, it oscillates with the years, and even within hearts overwhelmed by evil, one small bridgehead of good is retained, and even in the best of all hearts, there remains an unuprooted, small corner of evil. Naruto is a story full of philosophy and psychology. It is the individual humans and their actions that drive the plot. These humans' actions are often the results of the world around them, which is often the results of previous humans' actions that were the results of humans around them, and so on and so forth. For example, if you could trace the Uchiha massacre back to one person's actions, it would be the Uchiha that killed Kawarama's Senju. From then on, his brother Tobirama Senju personally understood what the Uchiha were capable of. They were powerful, and that power was to be feared if an Uchiha's ambitions were tainted with evil. Tobirama knew how dangerous Madara was, and deep down he knew the world was fortunate to have Hashirama to stop his reign of terror. Tobirama is one of the most pragmatic characters in Naruto, so when he became Hokage, he tried to stop an apocalyptic possibility. He knew that if an Uchiha were to one day become as evil and as powerful as Madara, there would be no realistic way of stopping them unless someone like Hashirama emerged. And so he gazed into the abyss. His solution was to let the Uchiha run the police force, but his reasoning is not really explained. For whatever reason, he thought this could stop the Uchiha from carrying on Madara's will. As we know, this only separated the Uchiha from the Leaf and patronized them. As a result of Tobirama's actions, that will of Madara's ironically grew. The village he wanted to protect went to the verge of a civil war, but ironically the actions of an Uchiha saved the village, along with mitigating Tobirama's mistake. In fact, Itachi helped mitigate Tobirama's mistake twice. The first time was sabotaging the Uchiha in order to prevent a civil war. However, this only delayed the problem Tobirama helped to create. Who better than the reincarnation of Madara Uchiha to be the sole survivor of the massacre? Sasuke was lied to at first, but after his death, Itachi could no longer keep this lie alive for Tobirama. Madara's secret disciple finally told Madara's reincarnation the ugly truth. Sasuke's hatred finally rivaled Madara's, and his power had the potential to reach Madara's as well. Even when Sasuke had only a fraction of Madara's power, he was able to spread chaos among the 5 great nations, and even killed Tobirama's student Danzo. Once Sasuke obtained the power to destroy the Hidden Leaf Village, he wasted no time heading there. Fortunately for Tobirama, Itachi preoccupied Sasuke, and in his final moments, guided Sasuke back to the light. I spent most of that summary pointing the finger at Tobirama, but as I said in the beginning, that's not necessarily fair. From as young as he could remember, he lived in a nasty war with the Uchiha. They killed 2 of his brothers, and who knows how many more family members of his. This hardwired a prejudice in his brain that never really faded. When he first saw Sasuke with Orochimaru, he said of course an Uchiha would run with a scoundrel like Orochimaru. For those that don't think Tobirama is prejudiced, replace that last statement with any stereotype of your choosing. It sounds pretty bad, doesn't it? I can commend him for not letting his prejudice grow out of control, though. He seemed to work fine with Sasuke on the battlefield, and was particularly distraught when Madara stabbed Sasuke. The real problem does not lie within Tobirama's prejudiced undertones, though. In fact, it lies within Tobirama trying to protect the Leaf from a nightmarish possibility. To quote Friedrich Nietzsche, "Whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process he does not become a monster, and if you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you." Tobirama heroically wanted to take on the monster in the Uchiha's potential to destroy the Leaf. This monster existed out of sight and within the abyss. Tobirama's ambition ended up creating that monster in Sasuke. The abyss eventually stared back at Tobirama as if it was his own reflection. He became the encourager of the Uchiha curse of hatred. He became the monster. Danzo is the more obvious example of this. He's someone that's proven he'll do anything in order to protect the leaf. He went out of his way to prevent a non-threat in the Akatsuki by getting Hanzo to betray them. As a result, Yahiko was killed, Pain was born, and the Leaf Village was eventually turned into a crater by Pain. Another example would be him actively provoking the Uchiha into rebelling instead of making peace with the Leaf. This was because, after staring into the abyss for too long, he concluded that the only way to save the Leaf was to genocide the Uchiha. Eventually, the consequences of his falsely heroic actions caught up to him, and Sasuke passed judgment on him. Tobirama and Danzo are just two examples of someone gazing into the abyss for too long, and that analysis is just one way to interpret that quote. I'll revisit that quote after I talk about the quote I read at the beginning of the video. This quote basically says that power can make you evil even when you believe you're doing good. Those that are evil can still become good, and those that are good can still become evil. Evil nor good never fully leaves someone's heart. Naruto is a story that fully embraces this idea. It's even plainly explained during Naruto's training with B. Before he can battle with the Nine Tails for control, he must face himself at the Waterfall of Truth. At the Waterfall of Truth, Naruto gazes into the infinite waterfall. It's similar to how the abyss is infinitely empty. Eventually, he faces his dark self, which is a manifestation of his subconscious. This manifestation reveals that he still hates the Leaf Village for outcasting him at a young age. This wasn't evident based on recent events, though. He saved the Leaf Village from pain, and after his discussion with Nagato, he was established as one of the most morally just characters in the story. There was a small instance that showed Naruto still resented the Leaf Village, though. When two shinobi asked for his autograph, his knee-jerk reaction was to refuse. Dark Naruto revealed this was because it bothered him, considering how the Leaf once shunned Naruto. At first, Naruto doesn't comprehend that Dark Naruto is a part of him. It isn't until he spends time self-reflecting that he reaches this solution. He acknowledges that Dark Naruto is a part of him, and that he still has the subtle animosity towards the Leaf. When he has his rematch with Dark Naruto, he indicates that next time he'll gladly give his autograph to a Leaf Ninja. When Dark Naruto questions this, Naruto responds by saying he must believe in himself like the other villagers do now. Naruto's acknowledgement of Dark Naruto is what destroyed Dark Naruto. This instance should actually disprove Solzhenitsyn's quote, right? It actually doesn't. Immediately after Dark Naruto is destroyed, Naruto faces Kurama. Just like in the past, Kurama preys on Naruto's hatred and it works. Even after Dark Naruto is destroyed, that darkness could still overtake Naruto just like it did in the past. In fact, it took Kushina's unwavering motherly love to save Naruto from his hatred this time around. Going forward, there doesn't seem to be any apparent darkness in Naruto, but it's there. Just like how it was still there after Dark Naruto was destroyed. Even as Hokage, Naruto has the potential to let his hatred consume him. Another seemingly morally pure character that we've seen briefly lose control is Itachi. After Shisui committed suicide, several policemen told Itachi they were suspicious of him. They had a fair reason to be, considering they were the only two absent for the Uchiha meeting at the time of his disappearance. The incredible strain of Shisui's death and the realization that he would have to eliminate the Uchiha pushed him to his limit. He took out his frustrations on them, and then ranted about the Uchiha clan's actions that doomed them. Even after he knocked them down and Fugaku told him to stand down, he still wasn't done letting out his frustrations. It took what he loved most to bring his darkness back under control. It took Sasuke's pleading for Itachi to stand down. Just like how it took Kushina's love to bring Naruto's darkness back under control. These are small instances with morally pure characters, but morally gray characters struggle with this more. As Orochimaru had predicted, Sasuke's darkness would eventually consume him. Sasuke began to stray away from the path of revenge, but Itachi brought out the worst in him when he came back to the Leaf. We saw Sasuke go off the deep end, but Naruto's pleading helped balance out his darkness. Later on, Obito helped let Sasuke's darkness consume him again, but Itachi ended up balancing it out again. Ultimately, Naruto was the one who mostly defeated Sasuke's darkness after their final fight. Darkness in ourselves can oscillate just like Solzhenitsyn said. I've used two philosophy quotes as the base of this video, but I said in the beginning that both philosophy and psychology encompass Naruto. The psychological concept that ties in these two quotes is the shadow archetype. This is one of Carl Jung's major archetypes. The shadow is the element of the subconscious that we repress our thoughts and feelings into. This can be insecurities, anger, immoral thoughts, etc. It's an infinite abyss. Young's solution to this is integrating with your shadow. He believes that through acknowledging and accepting your shadow, you can partially defeat those negative thoughts and become a better person out of it. This is exactly what Naruto did in order to defeat Dark Naruto. This concept also helps explain the two quotes I've used in this video. Everyone has a shadow, just like Solzhenitsyn said, and even the best of all hearts still contains evil. The shadow also goes hand in hand with the abyss. The abyss staring back at you is just like how your shadow is a part of you. To put all three of these concepts into one, let's talk about three different characters. Nagato's hatred was born when Leaf Shinobi killed his parents. He overcame this hatred while training with Jiraiya, but when his hatred consumed him, his bias against the Leaf re-emerged. He tries to play the part of an unbiased god, but his abyss's shadow leaves his bias out of view. He had a vendetta against the Leaf for killing his parents and engaging in war in their country. That's why he unnecessarily turned the Leaf into a crater. His immense power is also to blame for the atrocities he committed. He had the ability to oppress the weak, and his shadow is what caused him to do this. But just like everyone else, he still had some good in him. It just took Naruto to bring it to the surface. It wasn't until his talk with Naruto that he realized he was evil. He always had a reason for every evil action, and even believed they were sound when they actually weren't. Obito's hatred was born when Rin died. Before her death, he was a morally righteous person, but afterwards he became quite evil. He never thought he was evil, though. The shadow of his abyss blinded him. His shadow influenced him into doing many strange things, like turning the hidden mist into a tyrannical and brutal place to live, for no apparent reason. His power enabled him to commit all these heinous acts. His immense shadow also influenced him into projecting onto Naruto during the war. He told Naruto he was pathetic for having hope, but really he was criticizing his own hope suppressed into his own subconscious. Naruto basically forced Obito into shadow integration, when he made him realize his secret wish was that he had returned to the Leaf after Rin's death. This realization was strong enough to balance out the darkness in one of the most evil hearts in Naruto. That was when Obito finally realized that he had become the monster. Madara's hatred was born while he grew up in perpetual war. He briefly overcame this hatred and helped to build the Leaf, but this didn't last. Tobirama and the Leaf not trusting Madara caused his hate to overwhelm him again. The shadow of his abyss blurred the lines of good and evil for him. Kabuto made him fight the Shinobi Alliance initially, but he was the one who decided to drop 2 meteors on the people he was trying to save. His power enabled his abyss's shadow into blinding him. He believed that the human race needed to be saved from itself, so he tried to control every single human being. He became humanity's largest threat, though. Had Kaguya not been stopped, the entire human race would have been turned into Zetsu. He became the monster while trying to prevent humanity from their own monster. In the end, Hashirama helped him realize that his philosophy failed, while Hashirama's prevailed. Ultimately, he let go of his hate. In conclusion, psychology and philosophy are highly present in Naruto. I merely just talked about 3 different concepts in this video. The story shows that even the evilest hearts contain good and vice versa. Many characters also become their own demise when they attempt to take on evil. They become the monster they try to destroy. This abyss can also be interpreted as one shadow influencing their actions. This shadow could be as insignificant as Itachi's, or it can be as blinding as Obito's. It is possible to integrate your shadow, but the abyss that it lies in is infinite. As Madara Uchiha once said, wherever light strikes, there are always shadows. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos in the future. Comment something if you have something to say, and thank y'all for watching, and I guess I'll see y'all next time.